Hi, my name's Donna Usher. I'm an author. I've published my first book nearly 10 years ago, and I am covering today the AuthorTube Newbie Tag. So while I'm not new to the whole concept of YouTube and being on YouTube, I am new to the whole concept of AuthorTube. So today I'm covering the AuthorTube Newbie Tag. I've got a whole heap of questions to answer for you. So the first one is, how did you find out about AuthorTube? Well, my wonderful assistant Chris found out about it for me and brought it to me. So thank you, Chris. What genres do you write in? So I cover a few genres. My first book that I released back in 2012 was a chick lit book. From there I moved into a cozy mystery series. I'm about to release the sixth book of that. I've also got a fantasy trilogy out, and I've got the first book in the Alien Private Eye series, which is a combination. It's kind of like a cozy mystery feel, but with a sci-fi twist. And I'm about to start writing something I'm really excited about. And I need to research exactly what genre that falls into, because it's going to be witches in it. It's also going to be demons. So I need to find out if it is fantasy or if we're talking paranormal. So watch out for that coming soon. So what is my preferred writing tense? I really like first person. I always write from first person. I know it can be limiting in what information you can give and things like that, but I think it's a lot more engaging. I like reading first person books rather than third person. So I always write in first person. Am I a plotter, a pantser, or a plantser? You know what? I'm probably a plantser. Interestingly enough, I'm more of a plotter when I write my cozy mystery, but my fantasy trilogy was a lot more pantsing, and the third book in was totally pants. Like, I had no idea what was happening when I started writing that book. I don't know if you can hear the rain here. It's been raining in Perth a lot lately. Yeah, I had no idea what was happening when I started writing that book, and I started writing the first scene and it just went from there. And I must say, it's probably one of the best books I've ever written. So I'm excited to move more into pantsing, to open myself up and trust in myself and in the information that I'm receiving, the story that I'm receiving. I like to have certain plot points even when I am pantsing. Even when I am plotting. I don't plot it out totally. I have certain plot points through the books that I'm aiming for. And then a lot of stuff goes on that I hadn't actually anticipated. A lot of characters come to life that I hadn't known about. So for instance, in my Coco and Chanel series, Chanel's mother Tess, or Lorraine, sprung to life. Like, I hadn't expected her to be who she was, and she just took over, and she didn't want to be this boring mum, and she ended up with a whole book of her own. So I guess I'm probably more of a plantser. Am I self-published, published, or yet to be published? I'm mainly self-published, so all of my ebooks, my print books are all self-published. I have got some audiobooks that are published through my first book, The 7 Steps to Closure. W.F. Howes took that one, and Tantor took my fantasy trilogy. So they came to me and asked me for the audio rights to those books. So I guess I'm both published and self-published. What publishing company, literary agent, or printing company are you represented by use, or what is your dream publishing house? You know what? I don't actually have a dream publishing house. I'm quite happy self-publishing. I love the freedom that gives me. I love the process. I love all parts of the process. So I am loving the creation side, but I'm also loving the whole putting the book out there, the editing side, the working with a cover designer, and the whole publishing side of it. Once you know what you're doing, it's actually not that hard to publish a book. So unless some publishing house comes to me with some amazing deal, I will be staying self-published for quite a while. What AuthorTube related videos can you expect to find from me? Well, books are videos about my books, videos about my characters, videos about what I'm doing, where I'm up to, maybe a little bit of my private life in there. So you can get to see a little bit about me and who I am. That's what you can look forward to. When did I start writing? Well, I published my first book 2012. I wrote that, I think, in 2010. But 2008, I started writing a novel, and it was terrible. Like, I got to, I think I was 70,000 words in and nothing had happened. So if you know how big books are, like a 70,000 word book is probably about this thick. So I was probably, a whole novel had been written and nothing had happened. So it kind of created a lot of backstory for my first book, The 7 Steps to Closure. But after I kind of wrote that and realized it was boring as batshit, I put it to the side, and then I went through the Queensland Writers Centre, and I did a 1-year mentoring program under Kim Wilkins, who's, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's a great author. She's a very well-published author. And I wrote 7 Steps to Closure while I was doing that program. Then I threw myself into a year of reading every book I could get my hands on about writing and about editing, so I could just like really become great at my craft. and then I dove back into writing again. So, but when did I really start writing? My first book I wrote, I think I was maybe about 6 or 7, and I was really inspired by Eileen Mitchell. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's an author writer, and she wrote the Silver Brumby series. So if you've got kids and they like horses, check out Eileen Mitchell's Silver Brumby series. I loved them. And I wrote a book about Brumbies, and I actually typed it up on one of the old typewriters with the ribbons and everything. And my mum gave it to me probably a few years ago. She still had it, and it's terrible. But that was probably the first book that I ever wrote. Well, that was the first story that I wrote. What authors have inspired my writing the most? Look, I would have to say the authors that inspired me the most is probably Jim Butcher. So he's a fantasy author. If you haven't read his work, you've got to read them. His books are amazing. And I was actually listening to him on Audible, because when I bought his first book, I accidentally bought the Audible version, and I hadn't really listened to books on Audible before. So I was listening to him on Audible, and I learned a lot by listening to his work. So I learned a lot of stuff that didn't make the stuff that I had learned when I was reading books on how to write. It didn't make it mean that it was wrong. I just learned that there was another way. And what I learned from Jim Butcher is that you don't have to have whole scenes of rest. So you have this rhythm where, like, if you keep the reader up too high all the time, they just become exhausted. You need to give them rests in between the high pace of action. And there was this whole thing about, don't write these scenes at the end, the boring scenes, make sure you write them through or you'll have trouble writing them. And then I was kind of like listening to Jim Butcher, and I realized that he didn't have any of these boring down scenes. He had a few paragraphs at the beginning of a chapter that might be a little bit lower on action and giving you a rest and giving you some more information. Certainly didn't have whole scenes like that. The other thing I learned from writing from Jim Butcher was that, just the fast-paced action that he put into his books. When you're at a fireworks display and you watch the fireworks display and it's like, boom, the end of the fireworks display is always the best. And novels are like that. Normally it's all building up to this end, and it's like the fireworks display at the end with the action. Well, because I was listening to Jim Butcher on Audible, I didn't know how far I was through the book. So I would get to these scenes and I would think, well, this is it. This is the climax. This is like the end of the book. And it wouldn't be. It would just be another scene, because he's so amazing at constructing these fast-paced action scenes. So I learned a lot. I was inspired a lot by him to realize that, the whole book can be as exciting as the end. And there didn't have to be like a saggy middle or anything like that. So he's probably inspired me the most in writing. However, I do love a whole heap of other authors. So Stephanie Meyers. Who doesn't love Stephanie Meyers? She's amazing. I mean, not only is the Twilight series like fantastic, but her other books, The Host and the Chemist, are amazing as well. Janet Evanovich, I love her books, how funny they are, how fast-paced they are as well. So I've been very inspired by her over the years. And I came up with the Chanel series, an idea of having a series that I could keep writing about the same character because of Stephanie Plum and what Janet had done with her. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, I know. Same. I'm a bit boring with this, but they're great writers and they're great books. Marianne Keyes, I read a lot of her stuff when I was a bit younger, and I really loved them. And Helen Fielding. So I remember when I got given I lent a copy of The Diary of Bridget Jones, and it was like kind of groundbreaking back then. It was kind of like the first sort of foray into chick lit. And I stayed up the whole night reading this thing. I could not put it down. I went to work. It was like 2 hours sleep, which as a dentist is not a great thing. But anyway, it was when I was working in England as a locum. And just amazed by this book and how funny it was and how engaging it was. So I think Helen Field has inspired me quite a bit as well. Right, next question. Do you schedule your writing sessions or simply get to writing when you can find the time? So when I am writing a book, I try to be quite regimented about my writing, and I try and do it first thing in the morning so I get it done and dusted. Otherwise, I tend to put it off, even though I enjoy the process. So I will try and make myself write 2,000 words a day. Now, I have been playing around with Dragon Naturally Speaking software, and I have been walking the dogs and actually talking to a dictaphone and then coming back and loading that up. There's pros and cons to that. Normally there's a lot of editing that needs to be done to that, but it is a good way to get a lot of words down fast. So I would go for a walk and maybe get 3,000 or 4,000 words done and then spend a few hours editing that. Still playing around with that, still not sure what I prefer. A bit of both. Sometimes it's good to get up and walk around and still get your writing done. Do you have on a computer? I use my laptop. Like I did write a couple of books on my iPad with just a little iPad keyboard. I write ideas. I don't write story. So I write ideas, and then I might go to a cafe if I've got a bit of a block or I'm not sure what's happening, and I'll just go to a cafe with a notepad and I'll just ask myself questions about the character, about why they're doing stuff, about what's happening, and just wait for the answers to come, and then the story just unfolds from there. So I will handwrite that sort of stuff, but I type the actual stories. And where do I write in general? Normally in my office. So this is my office at the moment. I'm going to be moving soon, so I can't wait to show you that my new apartment I bought myself. So watch out for that. It's going to be the first place that I have ever solely decorated myself, so I can't wait to put my own feel and spin into that. But anyway, yeah, I normally write in my office, but I make sure that my office is a beautiful space that I enjoy being in. What am I most looking forward to now that I'm a part of AuthorTube? I'm really just looking forward to being there with you guys and sharing my stuff with you and engaging with you and showing you a little bit about my life and my thought process and my characters and everything about that. And I wanted to say a huge thank you to you for coming and watching this video and for hopefully watching my future videos. Watch out, you know, I do sometimes give away my books for free too, so you can look out for them. But with this video, just have a check. I've got all my social media stuff, so you want to go and find me on social media and follow me there. Go and do that so that we can stay in touch. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. I'm not sure which tag I'll be doing next or what video I'll be doing next, but it will be in the next week. I'll be releasing that.